Warning, this deck is a meme deck. Not this is going to come as a surprise to anyone watching, but in case you guys don't know, this art type, it's not exactly known for being a top tier meta contender. It's not the worst art type out there, you could probably play it to Master 1 given enough time, but it's not really reserved as that kind of a deck list that is played by like competitive players. This art type is generally reserved for the absolutely deranged sociopaths that want to go onto the ladder and look for people on their rank up games and then just bully the hell out of them. What do you think happens when you summon a dog and a weasel in Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, your opponent isn't able to summon anything and they're not able to activate anything. So what happens is, your opponent stands up from their chair, grabs their monitor, and throws it out the nearest window. This archetype, it's probably the most toxic archetype in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder before I get into the deck list, if you guys are enjoying today's video and want to see more content just like this in the future, especially if you're a returning viewer, so apparently about 35% who are watching this or even subscribed to the channel, means 65% of you haven't even subscribed yet. So if you guys are enjoying this content, or see more deck lists from me in the future, or more videos from me in the future, remember to leave a like on this video and consider subscribing to the channel down below. Alright, let's jump into the deck list. So today's deck list is obviously going to be Prediction Princess. So how exactly does this deck list work? So this deck list is based around a bunch of ritual monsters in combination with a shit ton of flip floodgates. And the entire point of the deck list is just to keep flipping those floodgates face up and face down and make it so your opponent just cannot play the game. So your main boss monster is going to be your Prediction Princess Tarotrei, or however you pronounce this card. This thing has a couple effects. The first one is, once per turn during your end phase, you can spell summon a flip monster from your hand or your graveyard in face down defense position. Now keep in mind, this thing can actually summon out your other boss monster, even though it's a ritual monster. Alright. This thing then has another effect. Once per turn you can choose one of these. Target one face down monster on the field, change it to face up attack position, or target one face up monster on the field, change it to face down defense position. So this thing can target any monster on the field, generally your own because you have a bunch of flip effects, and just change their battle positions, making them face up to activate various flip effects, or putting them face down, ready to reuse their flip effects. Alright. Then we have your other boss monster, your Tarotreit, how do you pronounce this card. This thing has a couple of effects. First one is quick effect, you can activate one of these, flip any number of face down monsters you control to face up defense position, and vice versa. Basically the same as the other card, but only for your own monsters, and it can do your entire field. Alright, flip effect. When this thing is flipped, you can spell summon flip monster from your deck in face down defense position, making it incredibly consistent to grab any of the really just completely disgusting flip monsters in the game. Things like your guard dog that locks special summoning, things like your Whirlwind Weasel that locks all spell and trap cards, or even a card like your Pot of the Forbidden, which is a card that is generally used to help clear some of your opponent's big fields if you happen to go second. Generally if you go second with this deck list, you're probably pretty doomed anyway, but this card does give you a little bit of hope, considering if this thing does get flipped face up, it can destroy all monsters your opponent controls, or just return all spell and trap cards to hand, it can draw 2 cards, or it can shuffle 1 card from your opponent's hand back into the deck list. But generally it's used to try to clear big fields if you happen to go second and you need to have a board wipe. As for the rest of the deck list, everything else in here you probably recognise, other than of course the final 3 Prediction Princess cards. The first one being your Prediction Princess how do you pronounce this card? This thing, as a flip effect, can search for 1 Prediction Princess monster and a ritual spell from your deck and add it to your hand, so this thing will generate a shit ton of value. Especially considering, if this thing is tributed and sent to the graveyard, you can just summon it straight to the field in face down defense position, ready to use in combination with your various ritual monster effects. Alright, you can only use each of the following effects once per turn, and also, your opponent cannot target ritual monster you control with card effects, also they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So it stops both your monsters being hit by things like imperms, or lightning storms, or anything else. It's just a nice little protection on top of being a great resource generator. Alright, then we have the 2 ritual monsters themselves. Generally the better one's going to be your Underworld, but you are going to need to play this card anyway because we do have Preparation of Rites in the deck list, and this thing does need this thing as a target. Alright, this thing basically just summon out Prediction Princess Tarotrei. Keep in mind this thing can only summon this ritual monster, it can't summon the other one. And it just does it by distributing monsters, same as any normal ritual spell. And then during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to add one Prediction Princess monster from your deck to your hand. Then we have your other Underworld, your other ritual spell. This thing can actually ritual summon using cards in your graveyard. Or, sorry, can ritual summon the monsters from your graveyard. This thing can ritual summon a monster from your hand or graveyard in face-up attack position or face-down defense position. You must also choose monsters from your hand or field whose total levels exceed blah 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 blah. During the standby phase, if you control a Prediction Princess ritual monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard, spell or summon one non-ritual Prediction Princess monster from your deck in face-down defense position. So top being a great ritual spell that can grab cards from your graveyard and summon them to your field, it can also grab this dude and summon it straight from your deck to the field as well during the standby phase, which is fantastic because these cards are all quick effects that you can use during your opponent's turn to split these face up and generate a shit ton of value on top of activating all your floodgates as well. And that's basically it for the rest of the deck list. The extra deck doesn't matter too much because you're playing these incantations which lock you out of using the extra deck in most games anyway. The only ones that are kind of important are generally going to be this dude here. These guys are very important because you're going to need these cards as targets for, of course, the Diviner, because Diviner can send this card to basically turn it into a Manju, because this thing when sent to the graveyard can search for either of your ritual monsters or your ritual spell cards, and this thing when sent to the graveyard, which can also be sent by Diviner and also be sent by this card, basically can just pop a card on the field. So it turns this card and this card into removal as well. And then the other important things in the extra deck are going to be your Phantom Fortress, just because sometimes the turn will pass back to you. You can make some level 9s, you can pop some cards on the field, and your other Infinitrack card, because this one can pop multiple cards on the field, whereas this one only banishes one card. And that's basically it for the deck list, so without further ado, let's get into some gameplay showcasing what this deck can do. Alright, so before we jump into the actual gameplay, I thought I'd quickly show you guys the two main openings you're looking for with this deck list. They're not exactly combos per se, they're just sort of the main openings, the main hands you're looking for with all your searches to get the actual deck list rolling. So the first hand I want to show you guys, it's going to be a bit weird, because basically all you need is both your ritual monsters and your ritual spell card. And the cool thing is, you don't even have to have one of the ritual monsters in your hand. So for example, I'm going to use this Herald to send my ritual monster straight to the graveyard. I could use my Arclight here to search for it, but instead of wasting one of these, I'm just going to toss it straight in the graveyard. Alright, now I'm actually going to use my Burial here to send this Herald to the graveyard to give me a search for the other spell card. I can basically do the exact same combo using this ritual spell, but it'll end on a slightly weaker end field that doesn't generate as much advantage. Generally, you want to grab this ritual spell, this ritual monster, and then have this card in either hand or graveyard. Alright, so then from here, I'm now going to use this card to ritual summon out my princess here. Now the interesting thing is, if I actually had the other ritual monster in hand, I could have used that as material to summon this card, because I can summon it obviously from the graveyard. But in this case, we're just going to summon this card straight to the field. Alright, now we're going to do this. Then during the end phase, this card's effect is going to trigger, which can special summon back the monster from the graveyard that we just put in there, the ritual monster. It could also summon this card from your hand if you still have it in hand. It doesn't matter where it comes from, just has to be on the field. Alright, now we're going to use this card's effect to flip it face up, targeting a face down, flipping that face up, and this will give you a search for your first of your flip monsters. This one, generally the dog is the better one, but you want to grab either of these two. It doesn't really matter which, because you're going to grab the other one during your opponent's turn anyway, but guard dog's generally the better one, so we're going to grab that one first. Alright, then we're going to activate this card's effect to flip itself face down. Alright, then passing over to our opponent's turn. Now there's a very important thing you want to do here. You want to wait till it says standby phase. So once you're in the standby phase, this card's effect will trigger. And this will allow you to summon out one of your prediction princesses that is not a ritual straight to the field. Alright. Now we can activate your Prediction Princess here. Alright, to target one of your face down monsters and flip it face up, this one being your other ritual. This will then trigger, giving you your other really annoying floodgate, putting this on the field. Then immediately we can trigger this card's effect to flip all three of these face up. Alright, these two will trigger first because they're both mandatory. One of which is going to lock your opponent from being able to special summon, the other is going to lock your opponent from being able to use any spell and trap cards, and the third one is going to give you a search for 2 cards from your deck, which gives you fantastic follow-up for the following turn. Alright, in this case, grabbing my Prediction Princess and either of the 2 spell cards. I'm just going to grab this one because it's generally better. I can revive from graveyard, so... And that's basically it. Your opponent is now completely locked out of spell cards, completely locked out of special summoning, and of course, we've got great follow-up for the following turn. So the second opener you're looking for with this deck list is going to need your main ritual monster and your non-ritual Prediction Princess, your Bibliomuse or however you pronounce this card. Alright, and you just need your ritual spell card, of course. Alright, so we activate your ritual spell card using to summon out your ritual monster using this dude as material. And once again, pretend the rest of my hand is just complete bricks or something, just completely ignore them. We're just going to pretend these cards are like both Maxx or something. Alright, because this is not going to be the optimal opener. The optimal opener is definitely the first combo. This is going to be the suboptimal one for if you don't open perfectly. Alright, now this card is then going to be able to summon itself back to the field because it was used as material, placing itself face down on the field. And then as you saw in the first combo, when this thing is flipped face up, which you can use this card's effect for, it will be able to search for a ritual spell and a ritual monster. Alright, making sure to grab your ritual monster, and making sure to grab your Underworld. Alright, now we can activate the Underworld's effect to summon out your other ritual monster using this dude again. Placing this guy face down on the field. Alright, then we're going to pass straight into the end phase. Triggering this card in the end phase to bring back your flip effect monster. Then pass on into your opponent's turn. As per usual, waiting for the standby phase, activating this card. Then summon your dude straight to the field. Alright, activating this card's effect to flip this guy face up. This will of course give you a search, grabbing either your Floodgate for your spell and trap cards, or the Floodgate for special summoning. Generally, you're going to grab the guard dog. Alright, from here you can activate this card's effect to flip all 3 of these face up. You can actually choose to leave one of these face down if you want to use it during the following turn, but generally I'm just going to flip them all face up because I just don't care. But you could actually just leave one of these for the following turn to draw some more cards, but you're going to be flipping these cards back and forth anyway, it really doesn't matter. If anything, having multiple of these face up is pretty good, considering these cards actually have effects that protect your ritual monsters. So if your opponent has like an imperm, they choose to imperm this card, at least you have the other one face up. It doesn't particularly matter. But they are once per turn, so you can't use both of their effects despite both of them flipping face up. Search for one monster and then search for one of your ritual spell cards. Generally, I'm going to grab this one because it's the better one. And yeah, that's basically the other opener for this deck list. So I've got 3 replays to show today. Now of these replays, I tried to gather some where there was at least a little bit of interaction going on. I don't quite remember if there's any in the first one, but I know the last 2 definitely have a shit ton of interaction going on, so hopefully they're a little bit more enjoyable than the standard gameplay you'll get with this deck list, where most of the time your opponent is just going to see that you've activated 2 floodgates and go, screw this, and leave the game. Because that's just basically what this deck list does. It's a floodgate deck, so I did try to gather some replays where at least a little bit of interesting stuff happens. And at least try to show off at least a variety of different opening hands as well. Alright. So this is going to be the suboptimal opening hand, having this dude and one of your ritual monsters. Alright, so opponent of course has Maxx. This is fine, we've got a Call by the Grave, so... quite happily just Call by the Grave that. And now I just need to grab the ritual spell using my incantation over here. Alright. This guy summons out the other dude. He, of course, searches for the ritual spell. Thank God I drew this incantation, not the other one. Alright, ritual summoning, of course, using the other Prediction Princess, so it comes back to the field. That way I can flip it face up. This gives me a search for both a spell and a monster. Now I can use the other 2 cards on field to summon this dude. You can now flip both cards face down and pass the turn. And of course have a nice little call by the grave ready in case our opponent has anything too annoying. Alright, flipping him face up, grabbing our doggo, activating the effect to flip both the cards face up, immediately causing our opponent to activate every single one of his pearly cards. But we don't care about this because he can summon out all the level 1 monsters he likes. He can't do anything with them. This doggo's going to make sure of that. And of course, drawing some more cards to follow up. So this guy was, yeah, he was hella screwed from here. No matter what he did. Yeah. Looks to the top 3. I think I'm pretty sure he just like concedes in a second. I don't even know if he bothers to activate anything else. Oh yeah, a bit of a misplay here. I probably should have summoned this first before using this card's effect, but it doesn't particularly matter because I might have just kept this thing face down anyway. And yeah, he just concedes. Alright, on to our second replay. This one was a Sky Striker player, so we actually had a little bit of interaction during this one. Got to summon an Xyz monster. Now that's something you don't normally get to see in this deck list, because unfortunately, well, probably more fortunately, the incantations lock you out of extra deck, but in this one I got to use them. Because it went for more than just the actual 1 turn. Alright, so banishing the, or sending the Herald to the graveyard, searching for my ritual monster, activating my prep, grabbing my prediction, grabbing my, what is this card's name even? Was it Tarotrei or something? I've butchered that completely, but either way, summoning it to the field, going to the end phase, making sure to keep all my zones empty because I'm going to be filling them all up anyway. Alright, summoning my doggo. Flip him face down. Actually, I'm not going to be summoning them all. I didn't actually use the other ritual spell. Oops. Probably could have used this card as material there somewhere then. Alright, unfortunately though, before we could do any of our floodgating, our opponent had a Sky Striker card to then negate this. So, not too good. Gonna Ash Blossom his Triple Tactics Thrust of course, making sure that's not really grabbing anything too annoying. No Triple Tactics stealing or anything like that. Gonna have Maxx, thankfully, to stop him stopping him being able to do too many draws, so he can't go into anything like some access code talk or shit or something. Thankfully, Sky Striker is a fairly slow deck, so it wasn't like he was gonna particularly lethal me here anyway. He's gonna swing in. For some reason, swings into the guard dog so that he can no longer do any special summon this turn. Maybe that was his plan anyway, because he doesn't want me to draw a billion cards, and then passes the turn back. Alright, flip this face up. This will now give me a card from my deck. He's going to Maxx me. At this point, I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll just try to kill you anyway. I'm not particularly scared of too many things. Maybe an effect Veiler is probably the most annoying thing. Because Imperm we can't use. Ash Blossom, it's like, eh. Well, Ash Blossom would have been annoyed on this summon, but any Maxx draws into Ash Blossom wouldn't really matter too much after this card's effect's gone off. Gonna flip it face up with our Prediction Princess after summoning it to the field. Basically just trying to get this thing's effect off so I get to add both a ritual spell and a ritual monster to my hand. Yeah, I really want to kill him this turn because I know he's got the this spell back in hand, which basically just means my floodgates aren't gonna work, so we're gonna go for a lethal this turn. Alright, banishing the ritual spell from the graveyard to search for another ritual monster. Activating my Underworld, using the card in hand, summoning it to the field. This way, of course, brings it back from the graveyard, and then I can flip face up thanks to this monster over here. And that gives me 2 level 9s for any level 9 in the game. In this case, I'm going to summon out my Infinitrack. So I could also have summoned out the banishing guy as well. This guy who's like a banishing or a hand looping card. But in this case, this card can actually remove multiple monsters rather than the other guy that can only remove one. So I can pop both these cards on the field. This does bring back his Sky Striker from grave, but that's already lethal on field, so I don't even care. So rare instance of actually going past a turn 2 game here. Alright. And on to our final replay, which actually also went past the second turn. And this was against Cash Tira, which has a slight out to this deck list in that it can actually do the... If it has its spell on the field, which lets it do a big normal summon, it obviously doesn't special summon, so it can summon out a big dude from hand and have a little bit of counterplay. Not a whole lot, because obviously just one Fenrir generally isn't enough to win him a game, but yeah. Alright, so we use our Foolish Barrel here, sending our Herald. Herald's searching for our prediction. Gonna summon our Diviner, sending the other ritual monster to the graveyard this time. So we can summon that back from the graveyard with this ritual spell anyway. And the main reason I wanted to do this is because I wanted to get the Diviner off the field. I wanted to make sure I have a fairly open field so I'm able to summon out to all 4 of these zones, because that's what I'm going to be doing anyway. So unlike the last duel, I didn't mistake which ritual spell I used, so I actually am going to use all 3 zones. Which is also why we didn't summon this using this card as material, because I'm going to summon it anyway. Unfortunately, if you're wondering why I didn't set the Call by the Grave, it's because this card doesn't let you set cards, so I couldn't actually set the Call by the Grave. So that wasn't a misplay, I actually couldn't do that. Alright, flipping this face up, he's going to flip the other 2 face up. He has an Ash Blossom. Which is a little bit annoying, but thankfully we still have the Guard Dog on the field. This is probably why you should generally go for the Guard Dog first, because your opponent does have some way to disrupt this card. Maybe they top deck into an Imperm, or they top deck into an Ash Blossom. You do have the Guard Dogs already on the field. This card can change that and flip these 2 face up anyway. Unfortunately, didn't actually use all 3 zones, but I would have if I could have. Alright, drawing a couple of cards, or searching for a couple of cards, and of course locking my opponent out of floodgates, or floodgating my opponent, so locking him out of special summons. Forcing him to do the only play Cash Tira can do, summon Birth, summon out Fenrir. Which is actually kind of annoying, because Fenrir can take out 2 monsters on this field, because these guys all have fairly low stat lines. He decides to take out the Doggo, so I can't flip it face up to keep disrupting him every single turn. Probably a good idea. But it does mean he's left the big prediction princess on the field. Also, he then chose to use the Triple Tactics Thrust to grab this card for some reason, which was strange. I don't know why he didn't just grab the other Triple Tactics talent and then steal this. Maybe I didn't use a monster during the main phase. Actually, I don't think I used a monster effect during the main phase. Never mind, he was correct. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else he could search for here. Because unfortunately, he's playing this card and not playing Dimensional Barrier. I think Dimensional Barrier is probably better, honestly, but each to their own. Certainly cost him this game. Alright, now here's a cool little effect. I'm going to activate my extra Foolish Burial, which isn't actually just a search card. This card's also removal. This is the main reason I like this card so much in this deck, this compared to playing something like a Manju or something. Because on top of not leaving just a bunch of monsters on your field, which in this deck list, as you can see from me constantly trying to use my Heralds and my Incantations and material just to clear space, this card also, instead of just being, the monster on field, it can actually not only search for ritual spells and ritual monsters by sending the Herald of Arclight, it can also send the Elder Entity to the graveyard, which can then pop cards on the field. This does mean you get rid of the cards in my graveyard, but I don't really particularly care because it's just lethal anyway. I'm going to use my dude to flip this thing face down, so it's not going to use its effect. It then flips my stuff face down, which is a very bad idea, because obviously this thing, it likes being face down. Flip face up, search for 2 cards. Yeah, my opponent was late. That was a mistake, and he concedes. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for today's replays. Hope you guys enjoyed them. If you do, remember to like, subscribe, that kind of stuff. And yeah, hope to see you guys in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob? Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis. Oh.